If you can understand these three concepts, you can make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars with Bitcoin within the next 5 to 10 years. And I know this to be true because I've already done it myself. And I've seen the opposite play out with certain friends and family members who do not understand these three simple concepts. These are three concepts that I used to not understand. I had never heard of before. These were completely new ideas to me, and they were paradigm shifting. And by not understanding these three concepts, you probably have a fundamental misunderstanding of what Bitcoin really is and what it's capable of doing for you and your level of freedom in life. So let's get into them. The very first one rocked my world. And prior to understanding this, I thought the idea was to take money, take fiat currency, take government printed money, take monopoly money, put it into Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to go up in price. I'm going to sell the Bitcoin and boom, I'm going to become a millionaire. Little did I know that I would never sell. I found out later that I would never sell. Why? Because Bitcoin is the exit strategy. In the same way, you don't take your US dollars and convert them into Russian rubles and think, I've exited the US dollar, I'm going to save in the Russian ruble. No. You don't save in the Russian ruble, you don't save in the Turkish lira, you don't save in the Canadian dollar. These are melting ice cubes. But the thing is, you also don't save in the US dollar. You lose in the US dollar because it's an inflationary currency. The idea is to move currency from an inflationary currency into a deflationary currency. That's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the deflationary currency. Bitcoin is the exit strategy. You don't sell Bitcoin unless you absolutely need to for a medical emergency, for a health emergency, for if someone's got a gun to your head, some gangsters come up to you, like, give me your money or whatever it is, like absolute emergency, you then sell some Bitcoin. But otherwise, you hold in Bitcoin for life because Bitcoin is the exit strategy. Bitcoin is the lifeboat. All right? That is the very first concept, is you don't take profit. This brings me to my second concept here, which is don't try to time the market. Don't think, okay, when it gets to this, I'm going to sell. And then when it drops back down to this, I'm going to buy back in. That's idiotic. It's idiotic because what you could do instead, and understandable though, I understand why people do it. I say it's idiotic, but I used to think the same thing. In fact, for a while, I day traded Bitcoin, I day traded certain altcoins. And yeah, I made a ton of money in a very short period of time, but I also lost a hell of a lot more. I was an idiot. It took up all my time and energy and attention just focusing on buy now, sell now, buy now, sell now. And I thought I had cracked the code at one point because for a while the price was going like this and I kept buying low and selling high and just kept repeating that. I was like, I'm a genius. I'm just making all this money. And the next thing you know, I bought low and it went far lower. And then I got panicked and I sold it all and lost a ton. So these are early days. I'm talking like 2019 or something, many years ago. Point is, you don't want to try and time the market. What you want to do instead is buy and hold. Oh, and by the way, I should say none of this is financial advice. When I say you should buy and hold, this is not financial advice. This is financial entertainment. This is just what I've done. This is what I've seen work for other people. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm buying and holding. And what ended up, when I adopted this new strategy of just buy and hold, when I adopted the new strategy of not trying to time the market, when I adopted this new strategy of trying to optimize for time in the market, as opposed to timing the market, I started to suffer from this mental paradigm of thinking, oh crap, the price is down now, I'm poorer. And then when the price would go up, you'd think that would solve it. But no, what happened when the price would go up and I think, oh damn, I didn't buy enough because I still had a bunch of fiat. And so it was never, I would lose either way. The sun is killing my eyes here. I would lose either way. Price would go down. I'm like, I'm poor. Price would go up. I'm like, I should have bought more. Damn. I was like effing either way. I was like, F, either way. Now I've adopted a new mindset, a new paradigm. I love it. I'm going to give it to you right now. Here's how it works. When the price goes down, Bitcoin is on sale. Yay, it's cheaper. Everybody loves a discount. Get it. It's on sale. Way to go. Congrats. It's cheaper. Go, 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 go. Ideally, Bitcoin stays low for a long time. Ideally, Bitcoin stays really low for the next 5-10 years so I can absolutely load up while I'm still young enough to bring in fiat currency and work. And then when the price goes up, I don't think anymore, oh, I should have bought more. I think, great, my net worth is now at an all-time high. So either way, I win. Price goes down, discount. Price goes up, new all-time high, net worth. It's fantastic. So those are the first two concepts so far. Number one, Bitcoin is the exit strategy. And number two, we do not try to time the market. We just spend time in the market. All right. The third concept has to do with safety, has to do with security. And a lot of people really do not understand this, but it's similar to how banks work in that when you put money in a bank, it is now no longer your money. It is the bank's money. They legally own it. Same goes for exchanges. If you give an exchange, Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, you give them your coins, you give them your Bitcoin, it's now their Bitcoin. What you see on the screen in front of you when you click on my account or my portfolio or whatever, my assets, my holdings, what you're seeing is an IOU. That's what the exchange owes you. That's what they promise to give you, but they're not necessarily going to give that to you. Your account can get frozen. Your assets can get seized. It's happened many times before, and it's going to happen many times again in the future. So the concept here is the philosophy you need to adopt and the mindset you need to have is not your keys, not your coins. We must keep our Bitcoin in cold storage. We must keep our Bitcoin behind a PIN, ideally a 12-digit PIN, and 12 words. 12 random words. That's where we must keep our Bitcoin. I recommend using a cold card. You can buy a cold card device. If you're just getting started, it might be a bit easier to start off using a Trezor or something like that, but cold cards are the most secure. I recommend if you can learn how to use a cold card, which takes a whopping 30 to 60 minutes to watch some YouTube videos to learn how to use a cold card. If you can just use a cold card from day one, amazing. It's really not that complicated, but it is definitely a bit more complicated than a Trezor, which is why I recommended a Trezor for beginners. I've used a Trezor in the past, but they're not as secure as cold cards because cold cards only hold Bitcoin. Trezors hold a bunch of other coins. They have a bunch of other attack surfaces that can be compromised. So get a cold card and save your 12 words. Not on a piece of paper under your bed. Save your 12 words in a genius way. Be creative with how you secure your 12 words. I have thought of, in fact, I continue to think of more and more ways to keep 12 words secure every day. I'm not going to give you my favorite ways because then it's going to tell you how I've hidden my 12 words. But at the very least, I'll give you a very hardly anyone's going to watch this YouTube video, so very few people are going to find out about this strategy. But at the very least, when you write down your 12 words, at the very least, write them in the opposite order. And don't just write down 12 words. Write down like 50 words. So someone doesn't come along and be like, oh, there's 12 words. So at the very least, take those two approaches. And if you want to take it one step further, convert every letter into a number. So letter A is number 1. Letter B is number 2. And so if your word is, this isn't a word, but let's just say your word is ABBA, like the band ABBA, the number is 1221. And so you have a piece of paper with 50 different strings of digits on it in reverse order. And your 12 words are perhaps like the bottom 12. Or your 12 words are like the top 12. But again, they're in reverse order. So at least take that approach. And that way, if someone does find your piece of paper, they're not going to know what they're looking at. But you don't just want one piece of paper. I, at one point, had 3 pieces of paper. I gave one to my uncle. I hid another one somewhere random in nature. And I had the other one laying around my house somewhere. Well, this is again back in 2018, 2019, early days. I was an idiot. I lost the piece of paper around my house because I moved. And so I called my uncle and I was like, yo, can you get that piece of paper for me that I gave you? And he's like, oh, I can't find it. So he lost it. And thank God I had that third piece because I had all my freaking Bitcoin on it. And it was that third piece I hid in nature. So I went into nature and I found it. Oh, thank God it was still there. So I was like, that was so stressful. And I was like, never again am I going to write it on a piece of paper and just hope I don't lose the piece of paper. That is insanity. But that's kind of the advice people give you. They're like, oh, put it on like a fire stamp. Put it on like this piece of steel so it's fireproof. Dude, then you lose the piece of steel and you're screwed. I recommend something that goes against what most people recommend, and I do recommend digitizing it. I do recommend blasting it on the internet. I do recommend turning it into a picture or an email or a video or a PDF or an MP3. Like, make it digital, blast it everywhere, but do it in a way that no one's ever going to find out. Like, for example, in this very YouTube video right now, let's pretend this video was scripted. I could be speaking from a teleprompter right now, and at the start of like every sentence, I could have used one of the words. Like, hide it in plain sight so no one's ever going to be able to tell. That's what I'm talking about in terms of like, be creative with how you hide your 12 words. There's so many other creative ways of doing it. But like I said, at the very least, when you do write them down, write them in reverse order, change all letters to a number, and don't just add 12 words to a piece of paper. It's silly. Or 12 entries to a piece of paper. It's way too obvious. So those are just some pieces of advice that when it comes to keeping your 12 words safe. And then when it comes to your PIN, your PIN, you want to use a number that is completely new and made up. Like, you're probably used to using your credit card PIN code, or you're probably used to using the last 4 digits of a phone number, or you're probably used to using maybe your old address or something as your favorite sequence of numbers that you can remember easily. But with Bitcoin, again, we're talking, this PIN is going to be protecting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for you. So use a made up number that you've never used anywhere else before. Make it mean something to you, and then practice it daily. Practice writing this number down daily. I do recommend also memorizing your 12 words and writing those down daily, not in full, but like write at least down the first letter of every word daily for a month or two, and like repeat it in your head, go through it in your head. I've turned my 12 words into a story, so I can easily recite the story like that, no problem. Same with my numbers. My PIN, my 12-digit PIN means something to me. It's a story. But the reason I'm spending all this time talking about security is because you're not used to this. Humans have never had to be in charge of their net worth before. Us humans, maybe our grandparents had to like hide their gold under the bed or something. Then they were in charge. But in the modern day, we're used to banks. We're used to organizations, institutions taking care of our money for us. But now you are in charge. Not your keys, not your coins. But if they are your keys, you better save those keys somewhere. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you found it super duper helpful. I'll see you in the next vid. And if you want to join my free Bitcoin education community where you can continuously learn more about Bitcoin to become a Bitcoin master, I'll put the link for that down below. All right. Ciao for now. Peace out. Much love. Adios. Bye.